We're using him till the house is ours. Those 8 words destroyed my family forever. My daughter-in-law, Amber, was laughing into her phone, thinking I was upstairs dying from cancer. She had no idea I'd beaten it 4 months ago. She definitely had no idea I was recording every word. I didn't rage. I didn't cry. I simply walked to my study, opened my laptop, and smiled. The kind of smile that comes right before you destroy someone's entire world. See, Amber and my son Tyler moved into my $3.5 million Victorian house 18 months ago to help during my treatment. They thought they were playing me, waiting for me to die or sign everything over like some confused old fool. But here's what they didn't know about this cancer survivor. I'd been planning their downfall for 3 months. And if you think that phone call was shocking, wait until you hear what I did next. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. 18 months ago, I got the call every man my age dreads. Stage 3, colon cancer. The oncologist, Dr. Patricia Hendricks, sat me down in her sterile office and delivered the news with practiced compassion. Robert, we caught it early enough. 6 months of chemotherapy, surgery, then recovery. Your prognosis is good. Good. That's a relative term when you're 62 and facing the fight of your life. Within a week, my son Tyler called. Dad, Amber and I want to move in temporarily. Help you through treatment. You shouldn't be alone right now. I was grateful. Genuinely grateful. Tyler's my only child, and after losing his mother 8 years ago, having family close felt like a blessing. So they moved into my 4-bedroom Victorian house in Highlands Ranch. The house I'd spent 30 years restoring, worth $3.5 million in today's market. The first month was actually nice. Amber drove me to appointments. Tyler handled the contractor calls when the roof needed repair. I felt supported, loved even. Then came the paperwork. Dad, you need to sign these, Tyler said during my worst week of chemo. I could barely keep food down, couldn't think straight from the medications. It's just medical power of attorney, in case something happens during surgery. My hands shook as I signed, not from fear, from the chemo cocktail coursing through my veins. The document gave Tyler authority over my medical decisions if I became incapacitated. Standard stuff, right? Wrong. 2 weeks later, Amber was answering my phone. Robert's resting. Can I take a message? She'd say sweetly to my contractor buddies, my church friends, my neighbors. By month 3, she'd convince me to add her name to my checking account. For emergencies, Robert. What if you're in the hospital and we need to pay bills? The medical expenses were crushing. Even with insurance covering most of the $347,000 in treatments, I was bleeding money. Co-pays, medications, specialized equipment. $89,000 of my savings disappeared in 6 months. But here's what really got me. The way Amber started talking to people about me changed. I first noticed it with Mrs. Patterson, my neighbor of 15 years. Oh, Robert's having a really hard time, Amber told her over the fence. The chemo is affecting his mind. Sometimes he forgets things, gets confused about where he put his pills. That was a lie. I never forgot my medications. Not once. Then came the conversation with my mailman, Jerry, who delivered to my house for a decade. We're managing Robert's mail now, Amber informed him. He's been having trouble keeping track of important documents. We don't want anything getting lost. Another lie. I'd been handling my own affairs since I was 18. The worst was when she called Pastor David at my church. I only found out because he mentioned it when he visited. Amber said you might need our senior care ministry, he said gently. She's concerned about your ability to manage daily tasks. I stared at him. Daily tasks? I was weak from chemo, not incompetent, but I was too tired to fight it, too focused on surviving to worry about Amber's overprotective narrative. Big mistake. By month 6, neighbors were looking at me differently. Sympathetic smiles, that careful tone people use around the elderly. Mrs. Patterson started speaking louder, like I couldn't hear properly. The grocery store clerk began explaining my own credit card to me. Amber had systematically convinced my entire community that I was declining mentally. The medical bills kept coming. Tyler started handling them, saying it was too stressful for me to deal with. He moved money around in my accounts, always with explanations. Dad, I had to transfer $5,000 from savings to cover the latest treatment. Insurance is taking forever to reimburse. The hospital wants payment up front for next week's procedure. I used your debit card for the $2,400 deposit. Every transaction had a reason. Every reason sounded legitimate. I was too sick to question it, too grateful for their help to look too closely. But here's the thing about surviving cancer. It teaches you to pay attention to details, small changes that might mean the difference between life and death. And slowly, as my strength returned, I started noticing things, like how Tyler's laptop was always open to real estate websites, how Amber spent hours on the phone with people I didn't recognize, always ending the calls quickly when I entered the room, how they'd gone from asking permission to make changes in my house to simply informing me after the fact. We moved your office to the smaller bedroom, Robert. You'll rest better away from the street noise. We're converting the basement workshop into storage. You won't be doing projects for a while anyway. They were erasing me from my own home, one decision at a time. The breaking point came during month 7. I was finally strong enough to drive myself to Dr. Hendrix's office for what would be my final scan. The results were exactly what I'd hoped for. Complete remission. No more cancer. Clean bill of health. I sat in my truck in the parking lot, holding those test results, and realized something that chilled me to the bone. I'd been cancer-free for 2 weeks, and I hadn't told Tyler or Amber yet, which meant I could finally see clearly what they'd been doing while I was fighting for my life. For 2 weeks, I kept my recovery secret. I needed to understand what was really happening in my own house. So I played the part of the weakened cancer patient while my strength returned and my mind cleared. That's when I started hearing the conversations they thought I couldn't hear. It was a Tuesday afternoon, October 15th. I was supposed to be napping upstairs, but I'd quietly come down to get some water. That's when I heard Amber's voice floating from the kitchen, crystal clear and completely unguarded. No, you don't understand, she was saying into her phone, laughing. Tyler's dad is practically gone mentally. The chemo really fried his brain. I stopped dead in the hallway. My heart rate spiked. My Apple Watch later showed 140 beats per minute. I mean, he's functional enough for daily stuff, but making real decisions? Forget it. We've been managing everything for months now. I pulled out my phone and hit record. Thank God for technology. The house appraisal came back last week, Amber continued. $3.5 million. Can you believe it? This old Victorian's sitting on almost an acre in Highlands Ranch. My realtor friend Sarah says we could flip it for $3.8 easily in this market. $3.5 million. She'd had my house appraised without telling me. Tyler still feels guilty about it, but I keep telling him this is going to be our inheritance anyway. We're just speeding up the timeline. The casual cruelty in her voice made my hands shake. Not from chemo this time, from pure rage. The nursing home consultations start next week. I found 3 places that specialize in memory care. Sunset Manor is gorgeous, only $8,000 a month. Robert will love it. Well, he'll love it as much as he can love anything these days. Memory care. They were planning to put me in memory care for dementia I didn't have. The best part? Once we get him committed, we have medical power of attorney. Tyler can make all the decisions about the house, his finances, everything. It's actually perfect. Perfect. My son's wife thought destroying my life was perfect. The timeline is tight, though. We need him placed by Christmas. Sarah says the spring market is when we'll get top dollar for the house. Plus, I found this amazing condo in downtown Denver. Glass walls, mountain views, the works. It's only $890,000. She was planning to spend my money on her dream home. Robert keeps talking about when I get better. But between you and me, that ship has sailed. Dr. Hendrix might have given him a clean scan, but the mental damage is permanent. Tyler doesn't see it because he's his father, but I do. The man can barely remember what day it is. Another lie. I knew exactly what day it was. Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. The day I discovered my family was planning to steal my entire life. The power of attorney papers are solid. Tyler's been using them to access Robert's accounts for months. We've already moved $12,400 to cover medical expenses. Robert doesn't even check his statements anymore. $12,000. That's how much they'd stolen while I was fighting cancer. You should see his savings account. $127,000 just sitting there, plus whatever the house sells for. We're talking about nearly $4 million total. $4 million. My life's work reduced to numbers in Amber's grand plan. The funniest part? Robert actually thanks us for taking care of him. He has no idea we're using him till the house is ours. He'll never see it coming. There it was, the line that would haunt me forever. We're using him till the house is ours. I already put deposits down at 2 nursing homes, just to secure spots, you understand. Used Robert's debit card. He never notices the charges anyway. She was spending my money to imprison me. Tyler's the only wild card. Sometimes he gets these guilt attacks, starts talking about maybe Dad's getting better or we should wait and see. But I handle him. I remind him about our kids' college funds, about finally getting our own place, about how this is really what's best for everyone. She was manipulating my son against me, using my own grandchildren as leverage. The neighbors all know Robert's declining. Mrs. Patterson asked me last week if we needed help with anything, said she'd noticed he seemed confused lately. I've been laying that groundwork for months. Months. She'd been systematically destroying my reputation for months. Even Pastor David called to check on Robert's mental state. I told him we're handling it privately, but that prayers would be appreciated. The whole community thinks Robert's losing it. My own church thought I was mentally gone. Look, I have to go. Tyler's coming home soon, and I need to make dinner. But trust me, by New Year's, we'll be house shopping. Robert will be settled in his new place, and we'll finally have the life we deserve. The life they deserve. Built on the ruins of mine. The call ended, and I stood frozen in my hallway, holding 47 minutes of recorded evidence that my daughter-in-law was a sociopath, and my son was either a willing accomplice or a complete fool. My hands were steady now. Cancer had taught me to fight when survival was on the line. Well, this was survival. And they'd just declared war on the wrong man. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. The recording played on repeat in my head. Every cruel word, every calculated lie, every stolen dollar. But here's what Amber didn't know, what nobody knew except Dr. Hendricks and me. I hadn't just beaten cancer. I'd been in complete remission for 4 months. 4 months of perfect health while pretending to be weak and confused. The next morning, I made a decision that would change everything. First call. Margaret Foster, estate planning attorney. I'd found her online at 6 a.m., researching like my life depended on it. Because it did. Ms. Foster, I need to see you today. It's urgent. Mr. Miller, I have an opening at 2 p.m. Can you tell me what this is regarding? Elder abuse. Financial manipulation. And I have evidence. Her tone shifted immediately. I'll see you at 2. While Tyler was at work and Amber was out running errands, probably visiting more nursing homes, I drove myself to Margaret's office. The first time I'd driven alone in 6 months. It felt like freedom. Margaret Foster was everything I needed. Sharp, direct, no nonsense. I played her the recording, all 47 minutes. Her face grew darker with each revelation. Robert, this is textbook elder abuse. The financial exploitation alone could result in felony charges. How much do they have access to? I pulled out my bank statements. Tyler's been on my checking account since month 2 of treatment. He has medical power of attorney. They've moved $12,400 so far. We're revoking that immediately. Today, she made 3 phone calls while I sat there. First to my bank, freezing Tyler's access. Second to my doctor, requesting a complete cognitive assessment. Third to a process server. Here's what's going to happen, she said. We're documenting everything. Your medical competency, their financial theft, the systematic isolation campaign. Then we're going to destroy their plan piece by piece. The retainer was $5,000. Worth every penny. Next stop, Wells Fargo. I opened a new account they knew nothing about and transferred $87,000 from my savings. If they wanted to play games with my money, they'd find the well had run dry. Mr. Miller, the banker said, we've flagged unusual activity on your main account. Someone's been trying to access it multiple times today. Tyler, probably panicking when his debit card started getting declined. That's exactly why I'm here, I told her. Third stop, Dr. Hendricks' office. Robert, you look better than I've seen you in months, she said. The scan results were clear, but how are you feeling mentally? Physically? Sharp as ever, Patricia. In fact, I need you to document that. Officially. I explained the situation. Her face went through the same transformation as Margaret's had. Robert, I'll provide whatever documentation you need. Your cognitive function is perfect. Always has been. Even during treatment. Anyone claiming otherwise is lying. She scheduled a comprehensive mental status exam for the next day, official documentation of my competency. By 5 p.m., I was back home, sitting in my kitchen when Tyler walked in. Dad, my card got declined today. Something's wrong with the bank. I looked up from my newspaper. Oh? That's strange. Maybe just a glitch. I tried calling, but they said there were account restrictions. Do you know anything about that? The concern in his voice almost broke my heart. For a moment I saw my little boy again, confused and worried. But then I remembered Amber's voice. Tyler feels guilty, but I handle him. I'm sure it's nothing, son. These banks have computer problems all the time. That night, Amber tried her card at the grocery store. Also declined. Robert, she said, saccharine sweet, there seems to be an issue with your bank account. Should I call them for you? Sometimes these things are easier when family handles them. That's very kind, Amber, but I already called. They said it should be resolved tomorrow. She smiled, but I caught the flash of frustration in her eyes. What they didn't know was that I'd also scheduled something else for tomorrow. Something that would turn their entire scheme on its head. The home appraisal. The real one. The one that would determine exactly how much my house was worth before I made the most important decision of my life. Because if Amber thought $3.5 million was enough to steal my future, she was about to learn what it felt like to lose everything in a single day. The quiet war had begun, and they had no idea they were already losing. Wednesday morning brought the appraiser. Professional, thorough, and completely unaware he was about to provide the ammunition for my counterattack. Mr. Miller, you have a remarkable property here, he said, measuring rooms with laser precision. 1894 Victorian, fully restored, original hardwood floors, updated electrical and plumbing. The lot size, alone 0.7 acres in this neighborhood, is worth a fortune. Tyler was at work. Amber was at her yoga class. Perfect timing. What's your preliminary assessment? I asked. I'll need to run comps, but you're looking at $3.52 million, possibly higher. The Denver market is red hot right now, especially for historic properties. $3.52 million, even more than Amber's secret appraisal. After he left, I sat in my workshop, the basement space Tyler thought I'd never use again. Surrounded by 30 years of woodworking tools, I made a series of phone calls that would reshape my entire life. Call 1. My old crew chief, Danny Rodriguez. Robert! Jesus, man, how are you? Heard you were sick. I'm back, Danny, completely recovered, and I need a favor. Anything for you, boss? I need you to spread the word, quietly. Robert Miller is healthy, competent, and nobody's victim. Can you do that? Consider it done. Good to have you back. Call 2. Social Security Administration. I need to remove Tyler Miller as my authorized representative, effective immediately. Mr. Miller, can you verify your identity and confirm this decision? 20 minutes of verification later, Tyler's access to my Social Security information was gone. Call 3. My insurance company. I'm removing Tyler Miller as beneficiary on policy, number 4478291, changing it to my grandchildren's educational trust. Tyler had counted on that $250,000 life insurance payout. Not anymore. But the biggest call was to Margaret Foster. The appraisal came in at $3.52 million. I want to move fast. How fast? I want the house on the market by Friday. Silence on the other end. Robert, that's extremely aggressive. Are you certain? Margaret, they've had 18 months to steal from me. I'm giving them 18 hours to figure out their next move. I'll contact my realtor. Denver Development Group has been looking for properties exactly like yours for their historic renovation projects. They pay cash, close fast, set it up. That afternoon, while pretending to nap, I installed a complete security system. Not just the doorbell camera Tyler knew about, hidden cameras in the living room, kitchen, and my office. If they were going to plan my destruction, I wanted every second documented. The first test came at dinner. Dad, Tyler said carefully, I tried to check your account balance today to pay Dr. Hendrix's bill. The bank said I don't have access anymore. I chewed my pot roast slowly, thoughtfully. That's odd. Maybe something happened when they updated their computer system. Amber leaned forward. Robert, should I call them tomorrow? Sometimes these technical issues are easier to resolve when family handles them. The concern in her voice was Academy Award worthy. That's very thoughtful, Amber. But I already scheduled a meeting with my banker on Friday. I'm sure we can sort it out. What I didn't tell them was that the Friday meeting was to finalize the house sale. That night, my hidden cameras captured pure gold. Tyler, pacing the kitchen. Something's wrong, Amber. Dad's acting different. Amber, dismissive. He's old and scared. Probably just paranoid about the bank glitch. But what if he's getting suspicious? What if he heard something? Tyler, your father can barely remember to take his pills. You think he's suddenly masterminding some conspiracy against us. Wrong again, Amber. The nursing home wants an answer by Monday, Tyler continued. Sunset Manor is holding the spot, but they need the deposit $8,000. Use the emergency credit card. We'll pay it back from his account once this bank thing gets resolved. More theft. More evidence. Thursday brought my cognitive assessment with Dr. Hendricks. Perfect scores across the board. Robert, your mental acuity is exceptional, she said, signing the official documentation. Anyone claiming cognitive decline would be committing fraud. I had her put that in writing. Thursday evening, the security cameras captured Amber going through my desk drawers, looking for bank statements, legal documents, anything that might explain the sudden restrictions. She found nothing. I'd moved everything to my safe deposit box, but I found something interesting in Tyler's notebook, left carelessly on the kitchen counter. A timeline written in his own handwriting. December 15th. Dad committed to Sunset Manor, January 3rd. List house with Sarah March 1st. House closing. Split? Tyler/Amber, 60%. Dad's care, 40%. They weren't just stealing my house. They were planning to keep most of the money. Friday morning, I dressed in my best suit, the one I wore to business meetings back when I ran my contracting company. Where are you going, Dad? Tyler asked. Bank meeting, remember? Sorting out this access issue. Want me to drive you? No thanks, son. I'm feeling stronger these days. The last part was absolutely true. What Tyler and Amber didn't know was that I wasn't going to the bank to restore their access. I was going to finalize the sale of their entire future. Denver Development Group was waiting with a cashier's check for $3.52 million and closing documents that would make their 18-month scheme worthless in 18 minutes. The quiet war was about to become very loud. Friday night, I called a family meeting. Tyler, Amber, could you both sit down? I need to discuss something important. They exchanged glances. Hope flickered in Amber's eyes. She thought this was it. The moment I'd finally sign over control. I sat across from them at my dining room table. The same table where we'd shared hundreds of family dinners. Where I'd helped Tyler with homework 20 years ago. Where I'd welcomed Amber into our family. My hands trembled slightly as I reached for my water glass. Not from nerves. That was pure performance. I've been thinking about my future, I began, voice deliberately weak. About what happens if I get sicker. Tyler leaned forward. Dad, we're here for you. Whatever you need. I know, son, and I'm grateful. So grateful for everything you and Amber have done. Amber's smile was radiant. She thought she'd won. The thing is, I continued, I've been hearing things. People talking about me around town. Tyler's face tensed. What kind of things? Mrs. Patterson mentioned that someone told her I was declining, having memory problems, but most days I feel pretty sharp. I watched Amber carefully. She didn't miss a beat. Oh, Robert, you know how neighbors gossip. They probably misunderstood when I mentioned you were tired from treatments. People love to exaggerate. Beautiful. Blaming the neighbors for her systematic character assassination. Maybe, I said. But it got me thinking. About the house. About making sure it stays in the family. Amber's pupils dilated slightly. This was it. I don't want strangers ever owning this place, I continued. Your mother and I put our hearts into every room. Maybe I should sign it over to you now, for estate planning. The silence stretched for 10 seconds. I could practically hear Amber's heart racing. Dad, Tyler said carefully, we'd be honored to keep the house in the family. But only if that's what you really want. It is, I lied smoothly. I've been thinking about it for weeks. This house should be yours. Amber's hand found Tyler's under the table. I caught it in my peripheral vision. When would you want to do this? She asked, trying to sound casual. Soon? Maybe next week. I want to talk to my lawyer first, make sure everything's legal. Of course, Amber said. Take all the time you need. After they went to bed, my hidden cameras captured pure gold. Tyler, whispering, "She's actually going to do it." Amber, practically bouncing, "I told you." The old man wants to feel useful, wants to feel like he's taking care of family. This is even easier than forcing him. But what if he changes his mind? Tyler, your father is scared and lonely. He thinks signing over the house will guarantee we'll never abandon him. It's actually kind of sweet. Sweet. She found my desperation sweet. The nursing home can wait, Amber continued. If he signs the house over voluntarily, we don't need the incompetency angle. We can let him live here until he dies naturally. How generous of us, Tyler said sarcastically. Don't get a conscience now. We've invested 18 months in this. Your kids' college funds, our future, everything depends on this house. They were using my grandchildren as justification for theft. Besides, Amber added, once the house is ours, we control everything. If Robert becomes a problem later, well, nursing homes are always an option. I turned off the monitor. I'd heard enough. Tomorrow was Saturday, the day I'd planned something special. Something that would wipe those satisfied smiles off their faces forever. Saturday morning, Amber launched her final propaganda campaign. She had no idea it would become evidence in her own destruction. I watched from my bedroom window as she cornered Mrs. Patterson by the mailbox. "Patricia, I wanted to thank you for being so understanding about Robert's condition," Amber said, voice dripping with fake concern. Mrs. Patterson looked confused. Condition? His memory issues, the confusion. I know it's been difficult for the neighborhood watching him decline. I had my phone ready, recording through the screen. "Amber, honey, Robert seems fine to me. A little tired, maybe, but oh, he has good days and bad days. Yesterday he forgot to turn off the stove twice. We're trying to keep it quiet, but we're really worried about safety." Another lie. I hadn't used the stove in weeks. Amber had been doing all the cooking. "The doctors say it's common after chemotherapy," she continued. "Brain fog that becomes permanent. We're just grateful we can be here for him." Mrs. Patterson nodded sympathetically. "You're such good people taking care of him like this." 20 minutes later, I watched Amber approach our mailman, Jerry. "Jerry, I need to ask a favor. Robert's been having some cognitive issues lately. If you could make sure all his mail comes directly to me or Tyler, we'd appreciate it. We don't want him getting confused by bills or important documents." Jerry glanced toward my house. "Is Mr. Miller okay? He seemed sharp when I talked to him last week." "He has moments of clarity," Amber said sadly, "but they're getting fewer. The oncologist says it's normal after such intensive treatment." More lies for my evidence collection, but Amber's biggest mistake came that afternoon when she visited my church. I followed her, something I could do easily now that I was driving again. She didn't know I was sitting in the parking lot when she met with Pastor David. Through the church window, I watched her performance. "Pastor, I wanted to update you on Robert's condition," she said, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. "The cancer treatment really affected his mind. He's become paranoid, suspicious of everyone trying to help him." Pastor David leaned forward with concern. "We're trying to get him proper care, but he fights us." Yesterday, he accused Tyler of stealing from him. Can you imagine? His own son. The irony was stunning. She was accusing me of paranoia while actively stealing from me. "Is there anything the church can do?" Pastor David asked. "Prayers, mainly. And if he calls asking about church business or seems confused, please contact us first. We're trying to protect him from making decisions he'll regret later." She was isolating me from my own church. But then came her nuclear mistake. That evening, she posted on Facebook, a public post, visible to all 340 of her friends. "Heartbroken watching my father-in-law's difficult journey. Cancer took more than we expected. His sharp mind is now clouded with confusion and fear. Sometimes the kindest thing is helping aging parents accept the help they need, even when they fight us. Tyler and I are blessed to be his caregivers during this challenging time. Prayers appreciated. Hashtag family first. Hashtag caregiving. Hashtag Alzheimer's awareness." The comments poured in. "You're such an angel, Amber. So sorry for your family's struggle. Robert is lucky to have you. Alzheimer's is so heartbreaking." 47 sympathetic comments from people who thought I was losing my mind. But here's what Amber didn't know. Mrs. Patterson was one of her Facebook friends. Sunday morning, Mrs. Patterson knocked on my door. "Robert, honey, I saw Amber's post last night. Are you really having memory problems?" "You seem perfectly fine to me." This was my moment. "Patricia, can I trust you with something important?" "Of course, dear." I showed her my phone, playing back yesterday's conversation by the mailbox. "This is what Amber told you yesterday about me forgetting to turn off the stove." Mrs. Patterson's face darkened as she heard Amber's lies. "Robert, you haven't used your stove in months. Amber's been bringing your meals from their kitchen." "That's right. And there's more." I played 3 more recordings. Amber's conversation with Jerry, her lies to Pastor David, her phone call about the nursing home plans. Mrs. Patterson's face went from confusion to shock to fury. "Robert, this is elder abuse. This girl is systematically destroying your reputation." "I know, and tomorrow she's going to pay for every lie." Sunday night, I sat in my study surrounded by 18 months of my life reduced to files, recordings, and bank statements. Time for the final accounting. Margaret Foster had taught me to think like a prosecutor. Document everything, quantify the damage, build an airtight case. I opened my laptop and created a spreadsheet titled The Amber Files. Financial damage assessment, unauthorized withdrawals, $12,400 taken for medical expenses that were actually nursing home deposits and personal spending. Attempted account access, 23 separate incidents after I revoked Tyler's authority. The bank's security logs showed every failed attempt, complete with timestamps. Fraudulent medical payments, $2,400 paid to Sunset Manor as a hold deposit for my involuntary commitment. Charged to my debit card without my knowledge. My actual out-of-pocket medical expenses, $49,000. The money I'd legitimately spent fighting cancer while they planned to steal my recovery. House maintenance they'd avoided. $18,000 in critical repairs, roof work, HVAC servicing, foundation inspections that Tyler had convinced me to postpone until you're feeling better. They wanted the house, but weren't willing to maintain it. Reputation damage. Catalog. I'd been documenting every lie, every character assassination, every neighbor they'd turned against me. Mrs. Patterson. Told I had memory issues and stove safety problems. Jerry the mailman. Told I was confused by bills and documents. Pastor David. Told I was paranoid and suspicious, fighting help. Dr. Martinez at the pharmacy. Amber had called asking about confusion medications for elderly patients. 3 different nursing homes. Tyler had toured facilities, telling staff I was becoming unmanageable at home. Facebook audience, 340 people now believed I had Alzheimer's disease. The systematic destruction of my reputation had taken months of calculated lies. Legal evidence portfolio, audio recordings, 67 separate files, totaling 23 hours of conversations. The crown jewel was still that first phone call. "We're using him till the house is ours." Video evidence. 47 clips from my hidden security system. Amber searching my desk. Tyler making unauthorized phone calls to my bank. Both of them celebrating what they thought was their inevitable inheritance. Written documentation. Tyler's handwritten timeline showing their profit-sharing plan. Amber's Facebook posts painting me as mentally incompetent. Text messages between them discussing nursing home strategies. Medical evidence. Dr. Hendrix's comprehensive cognitive assessment, proving perfect mental function. Clean cancer scans. Documentation that I'd been healthy for 4 months while they claimed I was declining. Witness statements. 5 neighbors willing to testify about Amber's lies. Mrs. Patterson had already volunteered to appear in court if necessary. The personal cost. Accounting. This was the hardest part. Quantifying 18 months of betrayal. Sleep disruption. 4 months of insomnia. Lying awake wondering if I was really losing my mind. Social isolation. I'd stopped attending church, stopped visiting friends, stopped participating in my own life because I was embarrassed by the rumors. Financial anxiety. I'd liquidated $15,000 in stable investments, creating an emergency fund because I was terrified of becoming the burden they claimed I already was. Medical stress. My blood pressure medication had been increased twice due to anxiety. I couldn't explain to my doctor. But then I found Tyler's notebook again, hidden behind his laptop. The discovery that changed everything. Flipping through pages of his handwriting, I found something that made my blood run cold. Phase 1. Establish control during treatment. Phase 2. Document dad's decline. Phase 3. Nursing home placement, December 15th. Phase 4. House listing, January. 3. Phase 5. Closing, March 1st. Financial split. T&A, 60%. Dad's care, 40%. Estimated net, $2.1 million to us, $1.4 million to Dad's facility. They weren't just stealing my house. They were planning to keep most of the money while putting me in the cheapest care they could find. I found more notes. Dad's life insurance, $250,000, Tyler beneficiary. Dad's savings, $100 plus $27,000. Remaining monthly nursing home, $8,000, choose cheaper option. Amber's condo budget, $900,000 max. They'd calculated my death benefit. They'd planned to spend my money on their dream home. They'd researched cheaper options for the man who'd given them everything. The final page was the cruelest. Timeline adjustment if Dad becomes suspicious. Accelerate placement. Claim emergency intervention needed. If I caught them, they'd simply speed up my imprisonment. I closed the notebook and looked around my study. At the awards from the Contractors Association, photos with my crew building half of Denver, pictures of my late wife in the garden she'd loved. This house wasn't just worth $3.52 million. It was worth 50 years of my life. Tomorrow, they'd learn exactly what that was worth. Monday evening. I'd spent all day setting the stage for what would either be my vindication or my destruction. Tyler, Amber, I've prepared something special for dinner tonight, I announced, to celebrate my recovery and thank you both for everything. What they didn't know was that I'd invited witnesses, real ones. At 6 p.m. sharp, the doorbell rang. Dad, are you expecting someone? Tyler asked. A few friends, I said calmly. I thought it was time to reconnect with people. Margaret Foster arrived first, carrying a leather briefcase that made Amber's eyes narrow with suspicion. Robert, good to see you, she said professionally. Tyler, Amber, this is Margaret Foster, my attorney. Amber's smile flickered. Attorney? Is everything okay? Everything's perfect, I replied. Next came Dr. Patricia Hendricks, followed by Mrs. Patterson, then Pastor David. Finally, my brother Jim drove up from Colorado Springs. I'd called him yesterday. What's going on, Dad? Tyler's voice carried a note of panic. Family meeting, I said. The real kind. We gathered in my living room. Tyler and Amber sat on the couch, surrounded by the people they'd been lying to for months. The hidden cameras were rolling, capturing everything. I stood in front of the fireplace, looking at each face. These people deserve the truth. Friends, family, thank you for coming. I asked you here tonight because I have something important to share. I pulled out my phone. Tyler, Amber, remember Friday night when I said I'd been hearing things about myself around town? About people saying I was declining? Tyler nodded nervously. Well, I've been hearing more than that. I pressed play. Amber's voice filled the room, crystal clear and devastating. We're using him till the house is ours. He'll never see it coming. The reaction was immediate. Mrs. Patterson gasped audibly. Dr. Hendricks looked shocked. Pastor David's face hardened. Jim stood up, hands clenched into fists. Tyler went white. Dad, I can explain. Let me finish, I said quietly. I played more. The conversation about putting me in memory care. The calculation of my mental decline. The plan to flip my house for profit. Amber tried to interrupt. This is illegal. You can't record private conversations. Margaret Foster spoke for the first time. Actually, in Colorado, one-party consent laws make these recordings completely admissible. Mr. Miller broke no laws. Robert, Pastor David said, voice heavy with disappointment, is this true? Have they been telling people you're incompetent? Let me show you exactly what they've been telling people. I pulled out printed transcripts. Every lie, every character assassination, every reputation-destroying conversation, time-stamped and documented. Mrs. Patterson, this is what Amber told you about me forgetting to turn off my stove. Patricia's face flushed with anger as she read. Robert, you haven't used that stove in months. Pastor David, here's what she told you about my paranoid accusations against Tyler. David read in silence, then looked up at Amber with disgust. You used my concern for a parishioner to spread lies? Dr. Hendricks examined the medical claims. Robert, according to this, they've been telling people your cancer treatment caused permanent brain damage. That's medically impossible with your case profile. What about the financial damage? Jim asked, his voice dangerous. I projected my laptop screen onto the TV. Bank statements, unauthorized transactions, access logs. 23 attempts to access my accounts after I revoked Tyler's authority. $12,400 moved without my knowledge. $2,400 spent on nursing home deposits for my involuntary commitment. The numbers painted a clear picture of systematic theft. But here's my favorite piece of evidence. I pulled out Tyler's notebook, opening to the timeline page. Tyler wrote this himself. Their complete plan to steal my life. I read aloud. Phase 3, nursing home placement December 15th. Phase 4, house listing January 3rd. Financial split. Tyler and Amber 60%. Dad's care 40%. Tyler buried his face in his hands. Dad, it wasn't supposed to be like this. Wasn't supposed to be like what? I asked. You weren't supposed to get caught. Amber finally exploded. You're all missing the point. Robert is declining. He needed our help. We were protecting him. From what? Dr. Hendricks interjected. I have his latest cognitive assessment right here. Perfect scores across the board. Robert's mental function is exceptional. That's impossible, Amber snarled. He's been confused for months. No, I said calmly. I've been watching you for months. I played the video clips, Amber searching my desk, Tyler calling nursing homes, both of them celebrating their inevitable inheritance. The room fell silent except for the damning evidence playing on my TV screen. There's one more thing, I announced. Everyone leaned forward. I sold the house. The words hit like a physical blow. Tyler jerked upright. Amber's mouth fell open. Denver Development Group paid $3.52 million cash. Closing was Friday at 2 p.m. Complete silence. You can't do that, Amber screamed, jumping to her feet. We have rights. We've been caring for you. We invested 18 months. Invested in what? Margaret Foster asked coolly. You invested in fraud. This house was going to be ours. Amber continued, losing all composure. We planned everything. We sacrificed everything. You sacrificed nothing, I said. You lived rent-free in my house while planning to steal it. Tyler finally spoke, voice broken. Dad, where will we live? What about the kids? I looked at my son, really looked at him. The boy I'd raised, taught to drive, walked down the aisle at his wedding. You'll figure it out, Tyler. You're both young, healthy, and capable. Unlike the senile old man you've been describing to everyone. Jim stepped forward. Robert, where are you going to live? I bought a condo downtown, 2 bedrooms, workshop space, doorman building. I moved in Saturday. While we were at Amber's mother's house, Tyler said quietly, understanding dawning. While you were visiting nursing homes for my placement, I corrected. Mrs. Patterson stood up. Robert, I owe you an apology. If I'd known what she was really doing... You couldn't have known, Patricia. She's very convincing. Pastor David approached Tyler and Amber. I think you both need to leave. Now. This isn't over, Amber hissed. We'll fight this. We'll prove he's incompetent. Margaret Foster smiled coldly. Please do. I have 23 hours of recordings, 47 video clips, and 5 witnesses who heard your lies firsthand, plus a cognitive assessment proving Robert's complete competency. Please, by all means, take this to court. The fight went out of Amber like air from a punctured balloon. Dr. Hendricks shook my hand. Robert, you handled this with incredible strength. I'm proud to be your doctor. Pastor David hugged me. The church will support you completely. We'll make sure people know the truth. Mrs. Patterson was crying. Honey, I'm so sorry we believed her lies. You were being compassionate neighbors, I told her. She exploited that. As Tyler and Amber gathered their things, my son approached me one last time. Dad, I'm sorry. I never wanted it to go this far. I looked at him for a long moment. Tyler, you're still my son, but we'll discuss any future relationship through Margaret. What about the grandkids? Supervised visits only. And Amber is never welcome in my home again. He nodded, understanding this was more mercy than he deserved. As they walked out of my house, my former house for the last time, I felt something I hadn't experienced in 18 months. Peace. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my downtown Denver condo, watching the sunrise paint the mountains gold. The doorman, Carlos, waves as he starts his shift. Security, safety, and solitude when I choose it. The immediate aftermath was swift and decisive. Tyler and Amber moved out in 4 days, not the 30 I'd legally required. Desperation has a way of accelerating timelines. The financial settlement was clean. House sale proceeds, $3,520,000. Minus Margaret's fees, $18,000. Minus my new condo, $890,000. My liquid assets now total $2,612,000. More than enough for whatever comes next. I set aside $500,000 for my grandchildren's education. Tyler can't touch it until they turn 18, but they'll have college paid for regardless of their parents' choices. Tyler has tried to reconcile. 3 emails, 2 phone calls, 1 letter. I respond through Margaret. We've established supervised visits with the grandchildren 2 hours twice a month at a neutral location. Tyler comes alone. Amber is permanently banned. The community response surprised me. Mrs. Patterson organized a neighborhood potluck to celebrate Robert's recovery. Pastor David preached a sermon about protecting the vulnerable without naming names, but everyone understood. My contractor friends welcomed me back like a returning hero. I've started working again part-time consulting for historic renovations. Turns out surviving cancer and family betrayal gives you perspective on what's actually difficult. The workshop in my new place is smaller, but efficient. I'm building a rocking chair for my granddaughter's 5th birthday. Tyler will bring her to see it next week. Dr. Hendricks says I'm healthier now than before the cancer. Stress was killing you faster than the tumor ever could, she told me. Removing toxic people is the best medicine. I joined a cancer survivor support group, not as someone seeking help, but as someone offering it. Amazing how many people face family betrayal during medical crises. I share my story, I show them it's possible to fight back. Last week I had coffee with Patricia, a woman I met at church. She's 58, a widow, sharp as steel and twice as strong. We're taking it slow, but for the first time in years, the future feels bright. The house sold to Denver Development Group is being restored to its 1894 glory. Sometimes I drive by, watching skilled craftsmen give it the care Tyler never would have. I survived cancer by fighting for my life. I wasn't about to let anyone steal the life I fought so hard to keep.